Well, what happened is I had a background in, of course, as you understand, in industrial training and worked overseas, internationally. Came back from Kenya with a CETA. I was working with the Canadian International Development Agency. And there's a very large vocational education community here called the Association of Career and Technical Education in the US. It's like 23,000 members, and they have a large conference every year. And I was attending it in Los Angeles. And to make a long story short, a number of us got talking about getting something going in international because this organization didn't have a separate affiliate or section like that. So we just sat down over coffee, and about 10 of us, and drafted a constitution. And the next year we called a meeting, and it was ratified, and it started. But it was a group of interested people like myself who worked internationally and were from the US and Canada. And that's how it started. There wasn't really anything like that in this large vocational group. There was splintered little pieces here and there, but nobody had a formal organization. And we are a 501c3, which is an official nonprofit in the United States. So that's it. It was a dual goal, probably, and it's in the Constitution on our website. Basically, coming from two directions. One, there was a group of us that were interested in working and internationally, and we wanted to be able to join forces. And then we also felt that there was a need to bring international people together, and this would help accomplish it. And it is a neutral 501c3. It has no government financing of any sort. It's just membership fees. So it was to draw people in from other countries to join us, to work together to promote and support individual people, as well as the whole policy and programs in TVET, and learn from each other. Well, we did bring people together. We started moving around. The first conferences and actual were in the US, but then we had regional vice presidents, so we started doing them. I mean, we had a major conference, I just forget the exact dates, but I'm in Russia. We had one in South Africa. We've just had one in Malaysia. So we actually started moving around the world. So we brought people together in different parts of the world and in very different venues. So those conferences were very important. Of course, we had a website, and we had a newsletter and a journal, and you've seen all our services and products. Those are expanding at this time, but the key ones were conferences, websites, newsletters, and also we started working with each other. Somebody would call up and say, we need somebody here to do something and help us. So that's sort of the first products and services emerged there. And the website, by the way, had Google Translate on it even 20 years ago. So and we have to do that again now with our new website. That's very important.
Yeah.
And lastly, the presidents have moved around all over the world, from Germany to South Africa so the president now, of course, is US, but next year it'll be UK. Some are similar, some are different. The similarities are, the challenges are finding people that are good professionals that can allocate time to this. We're all volunteers, nobody is paid. And that is a challenge, because the best professionals are the busiest professionals, you know. And the regional vice presidents are absolute keys, because they have to reach out in their own regions. So I think that's the biggest challenge, and that has not changed. What has changed is we now have a set of products and services, and we're adding several. I can talk a bit about those later,
Mm-hmm.
uh, but it's easier to communicate now. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, before the email was about it, and of course you can't write letters and do anything like that. But now you have such better communications, and this has affected the whole business environment and everything. And what we're doing right now, you just couldn't do that back when we started. So,
I see.
so that's a challenge and a big difference. And also, uh, lastly, non-government organizations and NGOs go through ups and downs because you have key leaders and then some retire or move on to other things, and it's always a changing environment, and that's a challenge. And finding uh, key people to manage the organization on the board level, but also reach out and get others involved that's a challenge because it's always changing. People are always moving on or retiring and that sort of thing, and you have to bring new people in. You are an example of one of the challenges, not you personally, but your role. We had two different people. One acted as the administrative sort of assistant administrative officer for about 10 years, Barbara, who did, totally volunteered. Uh, and she did that for 5 or 6 or 7 years, and she was very good because she knew all the organization. Well, she retired now. I know her and I talk to her now and then, but when she left, then that was a struggle getting somebody to take over that role because we don't have a lot of money, you know.
Yeah.
And some people, unless they're retired, they can't just volunteer. I mean, there has to be some sort of payback. Well, it's kind of different because in the end, if you're the president, I've been the president twice before,
Mm-hmm.
and that means you've got to be on it and commit time to it and get people together. And I always reach out and say, look, we're thinking about doing this, and get people to react on the board or broader. And that's a challenge right now. Sometimes people are busy, they're on holiday, or they have COVID. And,
Yeah.
right now, if you don't get response from people, then you don't know you're on the right track. So that is a challenge for the president. And when I was working for the World Bank, I kind of withdrew for 15 years. I was a member, but I didn't really hold an office because it was a bit of a conflict uh, of interest because I had to be this neutral organization. The World Bank works worldwide. So
Yeah.
I couldn't be holding a formal role in a promotional organization, really. So I kind of, for 15 years, I pretty well backed away. But I think that's the key points that I would put out. If you're the vice president of the organization, if you're a vice president of a region, that is an extremely important role. They are our leader people out in the regions. And if they don't function and don't have time or don't have the right contacts, then we start to lose track to people in that region. For example, in the Middle East and North Africa, um, the Saudis were very involved, okay? And they
Mm-hmm.
could reach out and so we're missing that slot right now. That's a big, a very important one in a very different region. So that's an example of a hole we've got in our organization. Vice presidents are absolutely critical for the regions. They need to, if they can, reach out and say, look, in this neighboring country, here is a organization and a ministry that is running these programs, often looking for assistance or ideas, and invite them to join us
Mm-hmm.
visually or via Zoom or when we have a conference in the area. It's called the TIF, and we all agree the application procedure is probably too long and too difficult. Okay, and that needs to be fixed. And I went and looked at the other day, and I still recognize my fingerprints on it. So that needs reworking. But I have run microgrant programs in Africa, in Kenya, for example, where very small amounts of money will stimulate very good ideas. And I used to manage the microgrant programs in the state of Oregon for the Department of Education. So they can work. So it is available. They're small, but I think we need to make it a little simpler to get into, because the very people we're after to help are the ones that have difficulty dealing with something that's too complex and too cumbersome. On the other hand, we have to be careful that when we send the grant out and release it, it does get used correctly. But I did that in Kenya very simply. Of course, I was there in the ministry, and it worked very, very well. Go right down to the individual who's at a school or a training institution or in an organization at the local level. In Kenya, it just stimulated all kinds of things. You know, we gave around 9 or 10 or a year away with Canadian funds, and worked right well. I think basically the organization is targeted really at developing policies and programs nationally. And in other words, that's the kind of people that join and get into it. So the student members are not really in a place, honestly, they're in a good place to ask questions. Why doesn't this work in our country? But as far as contributing, it's be a learning experience for them. And also, you notice that two of the most important things on the survey said regional and national conferences are extremely important so people can get together. The cost of doing those for students is very difficult. So it's really looking at professionals who are involved in or want to be involved in at the state, local, and very much at the national level. You know, ministries of education staff, people in large training institutions, other NGOs, or a professional organization, say in Zambia, they have their own TVET organization. Those are the kind of people. Or get government people involved, because they're the very ones that are developing policies and programs in their country. You know, at the ministries or every country I have worked in. I've worked in over 140 countries. Has an organization dealing with workforce development policy and programs, and it has a lot of institutions networking, and they also usually license and accredit the private ones. So I mean, that's where we're at, kind of, because we don't actually deliver programs. We help people develop policies and programs and service delivery of workforce development. So, and I use that term deliberately because that's broader than just technical vocational education at secondary or post-secondary. Workforce development is a very broad thing, and a lot of people are involved in it, in the NGOs, in governments, in professional organizations. So, I mean, well, I think we have the right framework, okay? I mean, the framework we have of regional vice presidents, and if you looked at that survey, there was some very clear indications of where the interests were and were not, and priorities. So I think we have to watch that. And I think the addition of several new products and services, because we've been pretty static for about 20 years in the products and services. As you know, we're adding a mentoring program. We're adding we've added a tracking of financing for workforce development. That's critical because a lot of people may not even know in their own country there is a ILO project, a World Bank project, or a DFID project, or a CETA project. And if they know where that is, they can talk to them about getting resources to even travel to a conference or go somewhere, and we can help do that networking. And we're working on the accreditation and certification issue, which is very, very tricky. But if we get that worked out, we can help other countries and other workforce development institutions get recognized and promoted. I think we went through any NGO. NGOs tend to go through different phases. Okay, you may have a group of people who are very involved, and they, as I said before, they move on to other things, or they retire and withdraw from the profession and go on to do other things. So I think those are waves that go through. I think we have several members, like the lady from Australia, who was a former vice president, former president. There's several people who've been around a long time, and that kind of builds the continuity. But we need to draw new people in and hand the reins to them for the leadership. And John Gall has been around for a while, but he led, and now it's going to move to UK. But maybe the next vice president or president might be from a totally different country. It may be from Canada, or it may be from Africa, Asia, or Pacific, areas. So, I mean, you're right. It goes through waves, and I think you've had to slow down a little bit as some people, but now I think it's regenerating a lot. I think it's useful to change, but you have to have somebody that has the time and the commitment and already has a good international scope of working in developing, and especially in developing and middle and lower income countries. It's so different, I mean, the whole continent of Africa, there's a lot going on down there. Asia, of course, is moving forward. They're really middle income now. Latin America is we haven't done a lot in South America, although in the Caribbean, we've had a president from the Caribbean and Middle and Central America. I think there are a lot of middle income countries down in South America are very, very important. So I think we need to reach out to those. And I mentioned the Middle East. The Middle East and North Africa, we really need to become involved in. Personally, I think we should approach one of the Emirates or Saudi Arabia about sponsoring a conference. I mean, I worked 2 years in Saudi Arabia. I have been invited back and spoken at two conferences there, one regional. And that's an area that's got a lot of turmoil, and I was spending, yesterday, I was on a long discussion with a U.S. organization that is bidding on a project in Gaza, which is a very different place, West Bank. But they are very interested in working with IVETA because what they want to draw on experience around the world to bring to bear on some of the challenges there. That's a post-conflict economy. I mean, I've worked in Bosnia, I've worked in Nepal. There's a lot of in Africa, a lot of post-conflict places, which needs to be experienced into those places as well. Let's face it, OECD countries, the rich countries, already have their networks in place. We can't. I mean, the OECD just had a wonderful conference, and those networks are in place. But we can build on that, but bring it more to the developing and middle and lower income countries. That's kind of a niche for us. Okay, I think it is. I see it, stronger, broader, and probably with some new products and services that are reaching out and respond to the sort of things that were in terms of topics and priorities that came out in the survey. We should redo that survey in about 3 or 4 years
Yeah.
and just see if we've moved the needle a little bit. So, but again, the key is targeting and getting a hold of key organizations in different different places and countries, and getting them involved. For an example, in the United States, recently we have connected with the Community Colleges for International Development, which is US, Australia, and Canada members. We've connected with the Asia Society, which works all over Asia and has a real focus on TVET. We've got them involved. Working on the Canadian Vocational Association to get back involved, and Epsilon Pi Tau, which is an international organization of technologists, and they also have a focus on technical teacher training. So those are the type of organizations. Some of them are North America, but there's other countries have those organizations. We need to network with them. That's why this company in the US reached out in the last week to IVETA, because they want to tap into us to help them reach out on a specific project. They need to be partners, and we can offer services to them. We can promote what they are doing, and then in reverse, they can do the same for us, because many of us, we have the same goals, but we need to find a niche. As I say, there's talking to our OECD partners and organizations is good, but they're already there. What's our niche? Yeah, our niche is to draw from them, but also move on to I think, the developing and middle income countries. And that's difficult. There's no, I don't think so. I think we started right, but I think we sort of didn't change that much for quite a few years in terms of products and services and outreach. Okay. And I think, and then we had a turnover of some of the leadership, and I think we need to reinvigorate and do more outreach. And we've got some very enthusiastic members and board members who are each taking the reins on one of these new ones, as well as continuing on our existing products and services and making sure we can deliver. But it all boils down to the fact is, the most professional and best people are always the most busy. So how can we draw in new people and turn the reins over to them and identify them and, involve them? Well, I gained as much as or more than I gave by meeting new people and, getting involved, going to the different countries and actually working in them. Of course, I had the advantage of, once I got involved with the World Bank, I automatically was literally working worldwide, even though I worked in Europe and Middle East, North, quite a little bit. I had the advantage to work in all these countries. And if there was something going on, a good conference, they paid my way, So in other words, I had that. And when I retired, actually, I continued the same work, only even broader, because I had the network in place. When I retired November the 30th, and on the 5th of December, I was on a World Bank team in China, because speaking at a conference on, guess what, career guidance and counseling, and how to use that to, so that's kind of a general background. Sorry, I kind of wandered a little bit. I gave and I got, okay, equal amounts. Probably I got more than I gave.